Creating a successful business has never been so simple. Welcome to the Journey of Entrepreneurship podcast.
Your hosts, Richard Phipps and Ross Lerorio,
will provide valuable insights that will help you turn your ideas into reality.
Good morning and welcome to the Journey of Entrepreneurship podcast. Good morning, Mr. Phipps. How are you doing today?
Awesome, my friend. Great this morning and looking forward to keeping it exciting.
Glad to hear that. This week, we're going to discuss assessing your business idea. So at this point, you've decided that you want to start a business, but before you even get into the business plan, you definitely want to do a lot of assessing to see if your idea is feasible. And the name is very important because that's going to impact your branding. So one of the first things that I feel should be done is assessing your own strengths and weaknesses, finding out what you're good at, what you need to improve on, because as an entrepreneur, you wear a lot of different hats, especially in the beginning. If you don't have funding, you're going to have to do a lot of it on your own. So marketing, networking, coming up with product pricing, a lot of different areas are going to be up to you. So assessing your own strengths and weaknesses, writing it down and finding out what you're going to need help with when you find a mentor, when you're researching to figure out how you can address your weaknesses and hopefully make them into strengths or lessen them to a certain extent.
Well, I think there's a great deal of information that can be shared in that arena relative to assessing the idea, simply because oftentimes when people decide to start a business, they have an opportunity to determine the probability of success or failure for that business by doing the preliminary research. Last week we talked about, having a number of hairdressers in the same, or beauty salons or cosmetologists, if you will, in the same area. What would be the probability of success since everybody is sort of feeding in the same marketplace? This idea being moved forward, regards to what business an individual decides to start, it is essential to look at the marketplace where he or she or they are planning to practice to see what the competition is like in that neighborhood, what the market share availability is in the neighborhood. Because if there isn't a lot of competition, but still there is not enough people in the area to support that business idea, there is still a high probability of failure. The other piece that immediately impacts the idea is not only the market you're serving and the number of people to serve, but determine competitively pricing, how to work with your specific product or service in the market you're serving, because it's some people arbitrarily come up with pricing based on what their neighbors are doing, but that could lead to failure, because if your operating cost is considerably different to that of your neighbor might be doing business from home, you may be doing business from a brick and mortar location, your cost is significantly different to begin with. You may be using friends and family to distribute information and market your product. Your neighbor may be using marketing media, or that could be switched. You could be using newspaper and social media to market. And if your neighbor is using network marketing strategies, word of mouth, friends and family to do their marketing, and you're spending considerable dollars on newspaper or social media, it will affect your price point. So considering all the factors that are involved in the pricing, first, your cost of the business or service, 2, the marketing of the cost of service, 3, the infrastructures to support your operations, and then, what you would like to have as a profit margin to sustain your business, as well as make it viable for you as an entrepreneur, because you also have to feed your family or support your own existence. And depending on what the cost of that existence is, would help to determine your pricing. All of that has to be incorporated in pricing the unit or service, because you have to then determine how much of that product or service you have to sell to turn that X number of dollars on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis. So all of those factors have to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely. Just to piggyback on some of that, profit margins are definitely important. A lot of people don't consider that when they get started. You definitely want to make sure that you have a price point for how much you're buying the product or how long it takes you to produce the product, and then how much profit you're going to have to reinvest into the company as well as into yourself to keep the company going. Another thing I feel that when you're assessing your company, when you're coming up with the idea, the name is very important because that's what people are going to see and that's what people are going to definitely associate with your business. You definitely want to make sure it's something that's not already taken, like you said before with the marketplace, and bounce the idea off a couple of people. For me, I came up with a few different ideas before coming up with Thinking Out Loud Inc. Some businesses actually have names that closely relate to what their service is, but it doesn't necessarily have to if you can market it properly. So it really depends on what you want and how you feel the name will fit what you're trying to do. Marketing is very important. It's not something that a lot of us are great at when we start, but it's definitely something that you have to have a basic understanding of with the other aspects of your business as well. Because when you first get started, you're going to most likely be on your own, and you want to make sure that you have at least a basic understanding of all of the different areas, because you're going to need to, at some point, tell somebody how you want it to be done or give someone an idea of how you run your business in that sector. So having a basic understanding of everything is definitely helpful, and knowing whether you're going to be selling to consumers or other businesses is important as well, because that affects a lot of different areas as far as your branding and how you approach presenting your product.
So if they take the advice that we offer as a team, I think it is likely they'll start with not themselves, but they'll select some trusted advisors,
Right.
those who would like to see them succeed and support their direction, because starting out alone could be very hazardous to your financial health as well as business success. So I know we just mentioned it, so I just want to reiterate so that when folks decide, yes, we know we're entrepreneurs and they start with the idea and the vision alone, but as quickly as they can, as I did and as you did, embrace the support of others so that you improve the the probability of success for their business. One of the things that I slipped earlier in terms of sharing information on was in terms of the business model and development with branding. The name should probably, marketing is not my expertise, but you have to have some of that in the process. And certainly we have people that can support our audience in terms of marketing if that ever becomes necessary as they reach out to you. But one of the other pieces that I think is very important in the name selection is something that's memorable, something that's unique, something unique to their business, something that the audience or the consumers or constituents can remember easily. And in addition to that, something that when it's being marketed, it's easy to stick, because you're going to spend money marketing, resource marketing. And if you have some people decide, well, we're going to have a 6-letter name. And I think of some of the people who have advised I wouldn't put any names out, but 5 or 6 letters, 7 letters, because you want a specific name. It is very difficult for a consumer to track 6, 7 digits. And, you want people to use your product or service, they got to be able to remember you easily. So, sticking to 1 or 2 words and making those words or letters mean something significant that you can connect to your product or service is very important in terms of the planning process.
Exactly. And all of the things we've discussed so far actually go back to something that's mentioned a lot when you have a business is your vision. So your vision is constructed of a lot of different moving pieces. How you want people to see your business, what your business stands for, what kind of service you're going to be providing, how your business is going to integrate with the community and your competitors. So vision is definitely very important. It gives you an outline of where you're going, what you're going to be doing, how you want to become successful, and it helps keep you focused, because the initial vision, your vision is going to change over time. possibly, but you definitely want to go into it with some idea of where you're going to be headed and how you want to present your business.
You say so much in a very pointed way, Rasa, that as listeners analyze their thoughts and ideas about vision, I'm sure a lot of what you share will resonate with them in the planning process. I was thinking earlier when you mentioned self-assessment and determining what strengths you have, and we talked of surrounding ourselves as entrepreneurs with other individuals. I wanted to just touch back on that. For example, we were talking about marketing, and a person may be very strong on marketing. They may be very strong in communications. They may be very strong in sales, but then the presentation or packaging might be a weak area. The technology might be a weak area. So whatever areas that a person finds themselves, and being realistic, being honest, because we can't be 100% good, excellent in all the areas needed to operate a business. So
Right.
being honest in our self-assessment is one of the things that is very important. And then understanding where we need to get assistance to move forward is an essential part of that building.
Definitely. And being humble enough to know that you're going to need help along the way is definitely a big step to take. And there are a ton of resources out there. SCORE is a great one, which is a group of retired business owners that specialize in different industries. So whatever industry that you're in, they can definitely point you in the right direction and help you get additional resources. Before we wrap up the show, Mr. Phipps, were there any additional nuggets you wanted to provide to the listeners?
You mentioned earlier, I think just before we started the podcast, knowing the strengths and weaknesses. And we talked a little bit about the strengths individually and the weaknesses and identifying those. One of the things that we didn't cover were threats. And I wanted to just touch on that. I think one of them was obstacles and threats, which is synonymous with the SWOT, which is something that people come across as they look at business development and planning. Being able to know ahead of time in the analysis or research process, what are the significant hurdles to your business success? What would you consider those to be? Could it be location? If you're in a area that might not support your business because you selected being close to home as opposed to doing the research to determine what area your business should be in based on the clients you're serving. Another one could be, we talked about pricing, not coming up with a good pricing model based on your specific business, just copying somebody else's prices, and that could be a hurdle to your business success. Other obstacles could be things that are unique to you that you realize that these are things that you have to overcome. Some of them might be in your immediate circle, people that, decide that they don't want to support your idea. They may not be in your business circle, but hearing of your plan, there may be some of the greatest obstacles that you have to overcome, and having a plan to pursue your vision, goal, dream, in spite of the naysayers. But the obstacles you come across should be more fundamental to your activity as you plan your business, and identifying the things that might threaten your success. And you can certainly identify those as part of your analysis. And some of those obstacles may also fall in the category of threats, but the threats would be, in my thinking, things like the competition around you and those things that threaten your success, as opposed to obstacles which impede your success. So you become success, and so do you find a level of success. And if you don't assess the threats, obviously, reasonably well, those threats will start to take you out, minimize your success, and even increase the probability of failure.
As far as assessing the threats and opportunities and even success, something that I've found helpful is finding out who the leading person is in your industry, whether it be podcasting or real estate and finance, and following them or reading some material that they've created helps you get an idea of what it takes to be successful, but even more importantly, some of the hiccups and failures they had so you can avoid those altogether. So that to me, I found very helpful because it gives you somewhat of a blueprint. Not that you necessarily are going to end up doing it the same exact way, but it definitely helps you avoid certain issues that somebody's already gone through.
I just would add to that one that over the years in some of the speaking and coaching and training that we've done, I've done with individuals and with groups. One of the things when we talk to people about what research they did for the business before getting started, it is often, I'd say in 9, let me be a bit more liberal, in 8 out of 10 cases, there's been little research done other than the idea and pursuing the idea. So what I now share with folks is, it used to be written in books and you had to spend some time reading books, and many people don't relish the idea of reading. For many, it's time consuming. They're too busy trying to make a living and keep up with family and children and family and activities to pursue a lot of reading. But if you're going to go into business, whatever business it is, nowadays you can find a lot of information in snippets online. You should probably try to get as much knowledge about it as possible. But if you're gonna do the crash course, at least you get some valuable information. It's available online in small dosage. It's available in, when I say online, readings, but it's also available in the YouTube videos. If you prefer to watch, people give very detailed instruction. And I know on some of the work that we've done with the television program, there's some YouTube videos from some of the professors and so forth that we've interviewed over time that talks about those requirements.
Definitely research is important before even starting a business plan, and getting an idea of how feasible your idea is will definitely save you a lot of pain and heartache.
Yeah. Well, let's, at least we've shared a great deal of information, and I know you don't like to overdose the audience. We want them to be able to get small bits and be able to go to work with it, apply some of the things that they hear and research some of the things they hear, and look for resources to support their activity as we sort of lay out the essence of a business plan in its development phase and the other things that are necessary. I should say not business plan, but the development of a business through planning is the essence of what you aim as part of the process.
Exactly. And the business plan is a completely different beast in itself.
Yes.
And that's something we're definitely going to tackle as well. But it was definitely a pleasure speaking with you this morning, Mr. Phipps, and I look forward to our next episode.
I look forward to speaking with you. You always bring a great deal of value to your audience, and I enjoy being a part of that.
Thank you, Mr. Phipps.
Bye-bye. Great week.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Journey of Entrepreneurship podcast. To stay in contact with your hosts and to access more content
And resources, go to
journeyofentrepreneurship.com. Together, we will make this journey the best ever.